here and muted. Julia.
Present.
Oh, and John.
Present.
Cody.
Present.
And Mark.
Present.
Cool, we got the crew. Once
Okay.
you're good, we'll go on to C.
Yeah, just one moment. Celestine, maybe you can help me here. I am recording the meeting. Okay, so I got that. And everyone's checked in as far as roll call goes. But I'm not seeing where I can, where the little flags are supposed to show up now on the side of the.
For civic clerk, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, just okay, everyone just bear with us all. Give me 1 second. Hold on.
Is that a koala bear with you?
Me?
You
No,
can mute
we
him
had-
as host, you know.
You're talking about me? Yeah, that's my shaggy little dude. Seth is starting to catch up with his hairstyle, I think. Yeah, that's Jonah.
Okay, so you are now in, so you did the roll call. Let me get in here. Yes, okay, so, and you set current, right?
Yes, I went
Okay.
into minutes.
Yes. And so you should be so you did the roll call, right? And you set current there.
I don't see set current.
So set current is if you're in the minutes, so what you have to do is, hold on everybody. You know what, if you let me, I don't think you can do, make me a co-host so I can share my screen.
Okay.
So how do you make me a co-host?
No, I just made multiple people be able to share their screens.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. That will work. Okay. So here you are. This is where you need to be in the meeting summary. So I'm not sure if
Here I am. I'm here.
Okay. So you go to the roll call and you click on that edit icon.
Set current. Okay.
And then I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. Did my screen change?
Yeah, it did. Yep.
Okay. So see that set current?
Yep, I did that.
Okay. And then all you need to do is you either use, hold on 1 second. You either use this arrow to go to the next item, or you use this jump to.
Yep, I use the arrows. That's right.
Okay. So did I answer your question?
I think so.
Okay. Let me stop share. All right.
Okay, I'm sorry, Seth. Go ahead.
No worries. On to approval of the agenda. There's a motion by Randy. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mark. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. All right, that's approved.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is not going quick as better as well as I was hoping it was going to go.
Do you need help?
I need to just re-listen to the minutes afterwards since they're being recorded, and I can go in and add motions and everything after the fact. Otherwise, it's going to take forever.
You could do that. Yep.
Sounds like Corey got bounced out. I think she's in the waiting room again, maybe.
She's connecting. I'm so sorry, everybody. I would normally just be here, but there's a fluoride meeting that's scheduled at 5:30, so I'm going to have to boogie out in like 4 minutes. I'm super excited about that. So
No comment.
I was looking for a comment from Randy.
I couldn't unmute myself fast enough.
Okay. So approval of the minutes. Who initiated that one, Seth?
It was Randy and then seconded by Mark.
Okay. Action type. Okay. Just keep going.
Cool. We'll move on to approval of minutes from our last meeting on October 21st.
Move to
Is
approve the minutes.
moved Randy, second by, got John with the hand up. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. That approves.
Okay.
Good deal. And on to regular business, consideration with possible action on the progress of our green infrastructure code audit, which was held over from our previous meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll kick it over to you.
So we are in the midst of distributing the code audit findings to internal staff for review. And that's in progress right now. The landscaping code, stormwater management, chapter 30, noxious weeds, and then some other smaller ones with, the changes weren't as significant for permeable pavement, architectural design standards, pollutant reduction, and erosion control. So those have been distributed, and some of the groups have gotten comments back to us so far. By the end of the month, though, is when we're requesting written comments from the internal group, from the internal departments. And then after that, then it'll go to committee and commissions. So we are proposing that this is held to December before action is taken on it.
Motion to hold.
Motion to hold by Randy. Is there a second?
Second.
By Ned. All those in favor to hold until December's meeting, say aye. All with
Aye.
their hands. All those opposed, say nay. All right, held. And
Okay.
then,
Celestine, quick question. So I'm doing this motion
Yeah.
and I don't see hold. I see
So
adopt.
what you should do is just write hold in there, just to remind you that that's what it is. And then if you can record the motion and then the vote, then you can go back and say motion to, and then you can just amend it. You can edit it. And I can show you how to do that. But I would, if I were you, I would just type hold until December.
Okay.
And I got a boogie. So sorry, everybody. Melissa, text me if you need my help. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye. Bye.
all right, move on to informational. Informational. Good to go.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Item F, informational. Looks like we've got our next scheduled meeting on the 16th at 5 p.m. And then this will be correct, our new regular meeting time moving forward.
Yeah, we'll be back to the Wednesdays at that point. There was a conflict with a park meeting yesterday, so.
Good deal. All right, then we'll move on to a benchmarking update from John. John, take it
Sure.
away.
So as part of the clean energy work group and part of the renewable energy work plan, we started, at least when I came on the end of 2019, started looking at the carbon footprint for the city of Green Bay, the city-owned properties of Green Bay. Let me refine that. And this really is to answer point number 3 of that work plan, where we enlist UWGB faculty and students to determine a baseline for greenhouse gas emissions for the city. And beginning in the fall of 2019, we started gathering the data, and really probably the longest process in this whole game here was to get all of that data from the different city departments. And I definitely want to thank Sally. She was the sort of the conduit that worked between our group and the various city departments to get the information that we were missing. And there's quite a bit of data. So I'm going to share the screen to show you what we actually collected in terms of data to start formulating that baseline of carbon for the city. Can everybody see the spreadsheet?
Yes.
Okay. So we, in the process of collecting data, used one of the department's spreadsheet and sort of built off on that and started adding all of the kilowatt hour data for electricity and the therm data for natural gas for the entire year of 2018. So that's our base year since we had started this in 2019 with the collection process. So obviously we're in 2020 and we could begin the recollection process of data at any point now as well. But you'll see as I scroll down here, there's quite a bit of data. Each one of these lines reflects a meter that is being operated in the city or on a city property, whether it be a gas or electric meter. So we've got our transit department, we've got boat ramps, bridges, we've got the city hall, emergency government, our fire department buildings, municipal court, various operations buildings throughout the city. We've got our parking division, every one of the parks. So, there are typically buildings that are available to be rented out. Well, there's energy associated with every one of those buildings. So they're all listed, and you can see the gas and electric. There's quite a few of those. City Deck is in there as well. We've got Bay Beach and a lot of meters associated with that. The wildlife sanctuary, we've got pools to account for, the police department. There are pumping stations associated with our sanitary sewers as well as our storm sewers. And then, of course, there's street lighting that has to be as well as all the traffic control. So you can see there are a lot of meters in the city of Green Bay. I guess that shouldn't be too big of a surprise for a city our size. And we finish up with the housing authority and the water utility as part of this. So we compiled all of the data for 12 months for both kilowatts and therms. And we turned around and used that data in a software package. And let me see if that, can you see another spreadsheet, or do we need to reshare that?
Need to reshare.
Okay. I've been playing with this stuff all day, so Microsoft Teams and Zoom kind of work a little bit differently, but okay. So here is the software package we were using, and this is from the EPA. It's called the Local Greenhouse Gas Inventory Tool. And what we do is we take all that data, the compiled data, and we're going to enter it into multiple fields within this software package. And I'll just show you a few of those that we've gathered so you can see. Let me back up one here. So there's a place to enter all of the natural gas that we use. We also, some of our buildings use propane. I think that's the
John, I can't hear you, John. You're all, I don't know if it's just me or if it's everybody, but you're not coming through clear at all.
Same.
all gasoline fuel.
I think we lost you, John.
For those that can hear me, there's a microwave that, yeah. Hold on here. Can the microwave be? Okay. Am I back yet?
Yes.
Okay. If the microwave is run, it interferes with our Wi-Fi. So that's
Wow.
what was going on. Well,
Hey, at least it's an easy
Okay.
fix.
yeah, exactly. All right. So we've got our diesel and gasoline fuel vehicles that we can account for. We haven't entered anything in solid waste. We're still trying to determine whether or not that actually affects us because the city doesn't handle its own waste. Still making a determination, and whether or not we'd actually have the data for that's another issue. All of the kilowatt hour data that we have on that spreadsheet, you can see there's a place to enter that and account for everything. And then one of the areas that I think we still could use some assistance with, and this is urban forestry, because they do take into account the fact that your tree cover is a carbon sink. So we will probably want to get an estimate. And I remember both Julia and Corey talking about that. There may have been a student that was doing some mapping of that, but that's one area that I think we could still add. But beyond that, there isn't much more that we can add. And then at the end, we've actually got a summary of roughly the city is generating approximately 31,500 metric tons of carbon on an annual basis. So that's pretty close to what we can say is our baseline, based on all of the data that we have, and assuming that we have everything for 2018. That's our starting point. And as part of the work group, one of the things that we'll probably want to do eventually, knowing that we now have a baseline, is start working on eventually a climate action plan. So what's our plan to take this 31,500 metric tons of carbon to zero by 2050? Are there any questions?
I just want to say thank you, John. I know this was a huge undertaking and that it's been years in putting together. So really appreciate all the work you put into this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Were there any areas that we still, as we talked in the working group, there were still some missing data points here and there. Did you feel that you captured all of them?
I think we have. There's really, I think we've got every area. We brought in, or Celestine worked with enough departments to sort of keep hounding and looking for additional. I mean, she did a great job. And we could not have gotten what we did without her assistance in this. But based on what we've got, I think we're fairly complete. As I said, we still could tweak some areas. Primarily the tree canopy would be one of those areas. But I think this is a fairly decent starting point. And because this is 2018 data, it'd be interesting. I think we should probably turn around and restart accumulating the 2019 data And gosh, we're getting pretty close to the end of 2020. I'd be very curious to see how we move, how 2018 to 2019 looks, if anything is really changed with that data versus 2020. My suspicion is we're going to see a decrease with everything that happened with COVID. So, but I could be totally wrong on that. But we need to consider, sort of next steps after this. It's, if we really want to get ourselves as a city down to or carbon neutral by 2050, it's now what are we going to put in place in terms of planning, and efficiency is going to play a part in that. Working with WPS, their strategy to where are they going to be in terms of renewable energy. I mean, whatever WPS does in terms of renewable energy consumption affects us as well. So, and tree canopy is an interesting one too, because that could be part of our city plan to help build some carbon neutrality by essentially planting more trees and increasing the ability to have carbon sinks.
Yeah,
There's a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. We actually just had, coincidentally, a meeting this afternoon. It's been a while, so, but we had Corey and the Forestry Department and Melissa and some others. So, yeah, and our UW-Madison grad students, and we do have some help. So if you want to send me what you need, I don't know what's available already. The last time they did a tree canopy assessment was 2010, and it's probably changed a little bit based on the emerald ash borer and stuff. So, and that's like a decade old. I think we'd want something a little bit more up to date anyway.
Sure.
So we are going to work on it, but if you send me what you like, what goes into it, what you need, I don't know if that exists already too. So
yeah, what I can do, Julie, is I will send you this spreadsheet. It's just one tab, and it's just a few fields that they look for the calculator for the tree canopy. So looks like it, from my take, it's pretty straightforward, but I'll you never know. So I'll send you that, and yeah, any help you and your team can give would be appreciated.
that's exciting. Yeah, it was brought up on about a benefit of doing the tree stuff, aside from several other benefits about the carbon sequestration. So
yeah,
that's really cool that it's in there. I actually was just curious about, could you just talk a little bit more, or maybe have somebody else jump in about the solid waste? Only because I understand that you said that it's not like the city runs the solid waste, so it's, and then potentially the data might be not available, but then how do you account who's, like, if you were thinking bigger picture or whatever, it's just lost in there somewhere, because who's actually responsible for that, or how do you account for that? Because obviously the city is using, it has a service that produces emissions. So
yeah, I don't know exactly. I agree with you that it does need to be accounted for in some form. I'm trying to look at the tabs here, but I'm have to figure out how we that I don't know yet. But I do know, I agree with you. It does need to be taken into consideration, and certainly so does wastewater treatment, even though it's technically taken care of by NEW Water. We are contributing to it. The question is, I mean, I think we can get our city water bills that would at least be able to allow us to estimate how much water we're sending as city buildings to get treatment. But I need to know if there's more that they'll need. But I don't think that that's as big of a challenge. I think solid waste might be a little bit more of a challenge.
You know what scope 3 waste production emissions are, where it says calculate scope 3, because that would seem to be where Green Bay's waste would fall, since the landfill's in Appleton and Brown County handles it.
Yeah, and I off the top of my head, I don't have the answer to that just yet, but
Let me know. We
yep,
track
we'll
everything. So
that's true. That is true. So
So I'm curious to know, I guess, getting back to the tree canopy cover,
sure.
would you account for the city as a whole as part of this calculation, or more the city-owned land if we're focusing more on that as far as like the energy usage and stuff? Do you know how that would tie in?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have to determine the scope of, much of when we're looking at this in terms of city-owned building, I looked at this as what can we control? And the same would probably go for the tree cover. It might just be those areas in city-owned properties, parks, and things like that that would count towards this. I don't know.
The street trees too, probably, right?
Correct. But can we, I'm just throwing this out there, maybe hypothetically, can we take credit if we develop a program that allows citizens to plant trees, sort of a city program that assists them in planting trees on their properties? Maybe a program that we develop allows us to take credit as a city, as part of our plan. I'm just sort of spitballing here, but I think in terms of the cover, it really is within the city, in the city-owned properties.
Really love that question, Corey. I thought that was a fantastic insight. I wonder, and again, this is kind of off the top of my head too, but just if we get total tree cover in Green Bay, and then we can kind of break that down to how much of that is city owned. But I think it might be impossible to I don't know, to get a perfect measure.
We are planning on, because the original one, you can do that, because we did that with just impervious cover versus non-impervious cover for city properties. So we can definitely tease that number out. I'm just generally, and it's a conversation to have about how it fits into this, definitely, and overall, but I think, and I understand that us, for the city, having a carbon emission goal, that's the things you can control. But it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to just focus on city property. Now, whether it's just the calculation in here, that's a little different, but I definitely would go for the broader impact of, I think it would just be, I think you really need to have, it's the city. We're all part of it, all residents, all commercial development building, and it's a huge opportunity lost if we don't think we should be trying to work as a whole system rather than just on city property.
Now, if we go bigger, though, I will say that this entire project becomes huge, and now we're talking some fairly sizable grants and a lot of assistance, probably, for trying to bring in some consulting firms to achieve that number. And I know other cities have done that. There are plenty of examples out there of cities that go for the whole picture.
And I don't, not particularly sold on doing that for the carbon thing. I get that. I just meant for some of these other broader, the solutions, really. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
John, did you say?
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you say we got the vehicle data as well?
We did.
Okay.
We did. That's in there.
Thank you.
If you limit it to, the city property thing too, it limits what you might attract as partners to do other things that aren't, because, other outside entities don't really have, they don't have a lot of influence on city property. So
right.
And that's the vast majority of land. So, and land use. So if you're not, you want other people to be able to go towards the goals too and see themselves in them.
And we need to have all of those discussions as we look to bring ourselves to carbon neutrality. To get to that point, we're going to have to throw everything on the table, frankly.
So John, I have a question. You mentioned carbon neutral by 2050. Is that a city initiative or what is that? Because I was talking with Seth earlier today and I'm not aware of a resolution.
Frankly, that's what we've talked about. I think you're right. There is no resolution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, on my sheet here for my work plan, I've got target date ? 2050. So
I know that's what some other communities.
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty common date,
right?
But no, there has been no resolution done. That date has not been locked in.
But
What
the
was
city
the
council.
result with the county? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I'll talk later.
I was just wondering what happened with the county resolution. Did it pass?
That will be up for discussion. It got tabled to be written by a whole lot of people on committee and on the floor, but that should be up in December again. So.
And that was for 2050 also?
I think that's up for discussion, but that's the idea. That's the intent. The school districts was passed as 2050.
Mm.
And we did kind of get that ball rolling at the city level with our working plan that was adopted by the full city council that set 2050 as a target date. And, we have talked on and off the last couple of years about redoing that as a different kind of resolution. Correct me if I'm wrong, Seth.
Yeah, no, that's right. The like working plan and then our the 2 sets of annual goals that we did had that reflected as a date, which was approved by council. So in a like working sense, that is like the current working goal. It's just, however, like not a like permanent, like in 4 or 5 years, it wouldn't really hold any weight. But right now it's kind of the benchmark, the goalpost. Also, Mayor Genrich on his like 3rd day in office had a statement saying that he supports that. So I guess during his term, that is also kind of the date that we could work off of. But I think as we kind of convene the clean energy work group again to figure out what next steps would need to be taken to have a climate action plan, reduction plan, I think it could be very strategic to have a resolution kind of lay out some of those goals ahead of that process to just make sure it's something we're taking seriously and doesn't get dropped.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you, John. This is really exciting
All right.
data. And yeah, the
Thanks.
Clean Energy Work Group has some fun stuff to move forward on. And I guess I speak for myself saying that I can't wait to see what's next here. Any other questions for John before we move on to updates from Melissa? Cool. We'll do that then. Melissa?
Okay. I am just getting to the right spot. All right. So this is a good transition, what John's presentation was. I just wanted to give a couple of updates. I'm not going to tell you like everything I've been doing over the last month, but the primary things that I've been focusing on is green infrastructure code audit implementation and just looking at different resources and talking with different groups that have offered assistance as far as resiliency planning and different resources. And Julia sent me also some other resources for resiliency planning. So that's my primary goal. The other couple of things that I've been kind of dabbling into right now, and this is just from conversations I've had with the mayor. We had a meeting, when I say we, me, with this new group that's forming, and it's called the Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition. And it's a small group of cities at this point. So it's Green Bay, Eau Claire, La Crosse, Racine, Milwaukee County, and Dane County. And it's mostly sustainability directors and coordinators that are part of this group. But the goal of the coalition will be to form more of a stronger voice for local governments to have in Madison as a lobbying group for climate action, climate change on the state level. So I was encouraged to get involved with this group, and I bring back information to the mayor. It's not going to be my primary focus, but I just thought you would want to know about that because it coincides with some of these goals that have already been outlined by the Sustainability Commission. And I happen to know, some of the people that are in that group already just from my days with working for utilities and working for Focus on Energy. So I have some connections there. So it's being primarily organized by Clean Wisconsin. That's one of the organizers, or, they're planning the meetings and connecting all of us together. There will be some recruitment of other local governments, but because this is such an initial stage at this point, we're not sure how we're going to do that. But we did talk about involving the League of Conservation Voters, so they're going to be invited to our next meeting. I'm not sure who. They had a different name. It wasn't you, Seth. It was somebody else. I don't know who, but
that'd probably be Jennifer Gietrich, our government affairs director.
Okay. So right now we're just talking about guiding principles and what are some of the policy objectives of the group. And one of the nice things about it, besides, potential policy, is it's going to be a sharing group too. So there's cities like Eau Claire that have done so much already. And, as somebody who's new into this role, this will be really a good resource for me, because I don't think we really need to reinvent the wheel on everything that some of the other communities in Wisconsin have already laid out and had success with. And then, so there's, some of that I've been working on, but mostly green infrastructure code audit implementation. And I guess that's really all I have right now. I just kind of wanted to put that out there, and if anyone has any questions. Okay, well, then the next item is to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Randy.
Okay,
Is there a second?
I'll second.
By Mark. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. All right, adjourned.
Happy Turkey Day.
I think this is our first pun-free Randy meeting.
It really was. Wow.
Well, it's
Are
kind
you
of hard to
okay?
do over Zoom, you really can't.
Work
You're
on
out
it
of,
for next
you
time.
must be out of practice then,
Yeah. I'll have to chat him in.
I don't know if that counts, man. Keep working on it.
All right, work on it for next month, Randy. Good
All
to see
right.
everybody. Have a good
Bye.
night.
good night.
Right.